If anyone can hear me or not, check it out. All right, see how this goes. My first live ever between both of my channels. So this is Roy. Welcome to Roy Marko's Garage, or should I say, not garage, but Roy Marko, Marko Custom Build Models. So anyway, today I'm working on the 63 Corvette from Amt. So the box is, where's the box? It's around, there it is. This is the box for the 24-hour build. I've been into this build since 12 o'clock today at noon, and it is now 8:15 in the evening. So I've been at this for about 8 hours, minus a couple of breaks, having lunch and dinner and snacks and whatever. So let's see here. Can you hear me? Okay. Okay. Just going to check here. Just want to check, make sure that I got volume. Okay. If you can't hear me, let me know. Got two watching, so awesome. So what I'm doing, I can tilt this down if you want to see. This is a working area. Yeah. So I just kind of drop something here. Oh, Steve. Hi, Steve.
Craig is there.
Craig Jones. Cool. Hi, Craig. Okay, so this is the chassis that I'm working on, and it's not painted to where right now it's just a base color, and this base color will get painted over black, and some other things I want to do in the interior will be painted. I'm going to go blue with this, and right now what I'm working on, I'm just going to let that dry a little more. I'm just getting the body prepared because I got to get it painted. So these taillights kind of come in the kit. You glue them in from behind, and what they did, they completely remodeled this body, which is nice. It's very consistent. It's the same left to right, but you glue the old parts in that came in the kit, and basically the taillights, I kind of got to reshape them. So I glued them in there, and what I'm going to do is just file these over and shape them to the body so they only stick out on the Corvette. Maybe I can use this as a gauge, but just a little bit, just to create a little bit of a ridge that I can then use my Molotov pen and chrome them after the car is painted. And then the can put the red lenses in from behind. So that's what I'm working on right now. And I'm also working on a hinge system for the hood. So that's kind of where I'm at. I got the steering wheel together for the this is out of a photo etch sheet. The original wheel that came in the kit was completely oh, hang on, that's a better angle here. The one that came in the kit was completely squished. So this is photo etch and another steering wheel from another model kit. So anyway, that's gonna go in. I gotta paint it yet. And I used a piece of aluminum I had out of something to make a steering column. So that's kind of, it's, instead of, it's got a steering column there. So it's kind of nice. The wheels are painted. Just have to detail them. Just they're sitting up here. I got the dashboard, the base color done, and that will be then taped off and painted. I'm going blue on the interior. So, all right. So I started at 12 o'clock noon is when I started, in case you're wondering. Yeah, that's when you asked. So this has to be done for Sunday at noon. So right now my time is 8:19 in the evening. So I've been at this for about 8 hours, but really I've only had about 6.5 hours because I had to drive my wife somewhere and I had to eat lunch and stuff. So probably maybe, you know, and I was watching Bear Jackson there, the Scottsdale. So there was a Shelby Mustang that went through there that I've seen in real life. It was lot number 1395, and it was a 65 Shelby that Wayne Muscle White had, and he lived in Fort Saskatchewan, which is not too far from Edmonton, and I've seen that car in real life, and it was a one-owner car till he got it. So it was interesting. I just wanted to see what it sold for. It sold for like $480,000 US. So anyway, that's what I was doing earlier. I'm going to be working on the engine next. I just want to get this body sort of in a place where I can get some sort of paint on it, let that dry, because it's also one of the things I've done that you may not have seen obviously yet is the chassis. When I put it all together, I glued the interior tub to the chassis. I'll tape off the interior and stuff and paint everything its own color, but it's nice and strong. It's I also added some upper detail on the control arms. So I glued in some control arms from another kit that I had some extra parts. So it gives a little bit of detail in the engine bay. The engine bay in this model is very simple. Also, I added a battery tray. So when the battery goes on, which actually is just still on my painting board here. So when I detail up that battery, I'll have to look and see if the posts, which way they go on this, but it'll easily glue on there where it's supposed to be on the real car. So that'll be kind of nice. Hi, Nova guy, by the way. Just wanted to, this is my first time doing a live, so just getting used to it. It's kind of fun though. Feel free to ask any questions. We couldn't get it all, Dad, for some reason. Wonder what he's looking for. Steve, what were you? Oh, couldn't get. Oh, I see. Yeah. Because this is Steve the teacher. So good. Yeah, too bad, Steve. It would have been fun having you here. I really was looking forward to having somebody else to work with. Just something to keep me company, and I think it'd be fun to do this with somebody. But maybe next year, right? Oh yeah, and one of the things I wanted to show about the chassis, the reason I picked it up, was I glued on some pieces at the back. And there's some pieces on the inside of the body that I had glued on here. And so now you can engage this. And also, if you see, there's some pieces here that sort of keep it centered on the side here. So let me just put this in here. You'll see what it's like. So this body, when it gets all painted and everything goes on the chassis, I put a little piece here that catches the body. So once that's on there, the body and the chassis are now, one piece without gluing it together. So if something falls off, like a steering wheel or something like that, you can always go back inside this model and fix it. So that's the whole reason behind all of this. So that's. Oh yeah. Well, I'm glad you made it back safe, Steve. That's good. So I'm just so if you see what I'm doing here with these taillight rings is I de-chrome them. They came chrome in the kit. And they also have exhaust tips molded in, and they come through here. I opted to cut those off because my plan is I drilled holes in the back here, and I have some aluminum that will glue in, cut them, and then they'll go through the body and be hollow exhaust tips instead of just running those plastic ones. So you can see what I'm doing with the taillight here. This is before, just raw glued in. This is now filed down, so it follows the curve of the body, just like the way the car should be. And those stick out enough. Now I can hit those with the Molotov pen and make sure that the red lenses fit in. So like every model, you'll want to actually test fit parts. So like these are the lenses. You want to make sure that they'll go in there. And I think they're a little bit tight. So they're a little bit tight. So what I'll have to do is don't force that in there. It might be nice to leave them tight. I could press fit them in, but I don't want to crack the housing. So let me just get my little round file and just file out these holes a little bit. So that, see how that fits here. So yeah, that's basically how that's how the taillights will now look after paint. I think that'll look pretty good. So you're saying you couldn't watch the auction. I was wondering, Steve, did you you have to watch it, I guess, online. So. Okay, so those taillights fit there, so that's good. Now I have to do the other side. These little files are amazing. They're like sandpaper, like little popsicle sticks with sandpaper on. They're amazing for doing stuff like this because you can get nice straight edges. Even if you have like an imperfection in the body, you can sand it out nice and flat. And for the 9 people watching on my channel, I have upcoming, I'm going to show you how to turn your 72 grill into a 67. And the hood, you can see I have to do more work here, but I've also taken some out of the sides for 67. And I'm going to show how to do a short box. So this is, I made it too short. I did some measuring and everything, and I'm going to do the other side will be cleaner than this, but this it's still a usable piece. So I'll give you all the measurements and everything if you ever want to make a short box Chevy. So that's going to be on one of the how-to videos, kind of like how I did the wheel wells on the 55. So that's up and coming. So this is what I enjoy doing, is working with the plastic. That's why I start more projects than I ever finish. Everything you've seen on the channel is still in progress. So I'm working on finishing some, except for like that concrete truck, the cement mixer. That one's definitely going to be painted. A small update. I got some primer on it and stuff like that. So it's coming along. Got the fuel tanks on and fenders. So I'm not going to let that one get put aside. I got all the paint for it, so no excuses. Hi, John, by the way. Welcome to the live.
John says hi.
I said hi to him. Said hi there. I got my wife, Rebecca. She helps me with a lot of the social media stuff. So she is making sure I'm engaged in conversation. As I get modeling like this, and you just kind of, time goes by so fast. The first 3 hours felt like maybe 45 minutes, really. Well, you know what? It was 3 o'clock. Yeah, I'm glad I glued these taillights in like this. This would have been a disaster if I would have painted the body and not have done this. At first, I thought about using some stock styrene, and but the size of it was just not right. I couldn't do it, so I'll just work with the stock taillights. And then I thought about using Revell taillights, but I just can't bring myself to use Revell parts on an AMT model. I just can't do it. I don't know why. I can do reverse. I can put AMT parts on a Revell, but I cannot bring myself to use Revell parts on an AMT. Except I did it on the Supernatural car. I needed a 283 with a 2-speed power glide, and Revell 64 Impala was the only way I could get that.
Yeah.
Hi, Jeff. Welcome to the live. Sorry, this is kind of the don't want you to be bored, but this is kind of the time-consuming part of this. What I'm doing is just taking my knife and just taking off any, when you sand, it gets a little bit of plastic around the edge of that. Just want to clean that off. Knife is the quickest way. And then I'll use a yeah, that's true, Steve. You're right. You can. If it works, it works. It's you're absolutely right. When it comes to modeling, I just don't know. Like I say, there's just certain lines I cross. I guess it's like if you're a GM guy, you'd never put who would ever put like a Ford 302 in a Chevy, right? So, but people have no problem putting a Chevy small block in a Ford. So that's kind of the same scenario for me. So you always want to use a board when you're sanding something like this. If you were to take this, your thumb would make it, but all I'm going to do with this is just kind of give it a little bit of a smooth over. That's all I'm doing. And I'm just trying to make sure that they match left to right, that the taillights are the same. I'm just going to give a little bit of a file there. And again, we want to test fit the taillights because there, it seems like if I were to do that, that would be acceptable. So what I've done here too is on the body is the front corner markers down here. I've shaved those off. And what I'm going to do is use some little stones. Sorry, I'm just looking for... I'm going to use these things, these little rhinestone sort of deals, and I'll put those on for signal lights in the front corners. I think that'll look good. So I'm going that way on there. Okay. So also I'm test fitting the hood because what I did, the hood on the model has just a couple of tabs, and I glued in these pieces of flat styrene to create a flange around the fender, just like the real car. But the thickness here on the body is thinner than the edge of the hood. So what I've been doing is I'm working the edge of the hood so that when I get it on the car, it's relatively level. I'm not going to stress about this because I got to get this car painted, but and then I'm like I said, I'm doing a nice hood hinge. And for those of you that haven't seen what I'm doing with this model, I'm actually doing a 409 engine, Chevy engine, which never came in a Corvette. So, but in 1963 they didn't have the 427, right? So there was no big block option in the car, but they did have the 409 in their bigger cars. And so far it looks like it'll fit nice, so that'll be good. What I did here, I put a little pin in the back. This will drop in and line up here, fit in there, and then it glues up here. So as a short block right now before the head's on, and that there seems to be good fitment in the engine bay. So that's good. This is the brass that I use for hinges. I'll have to get the size measured. I got to do a whole video on how I do hood hinges. But in this case, the Corvette, actually the factory pins are very, very correct for where the hood actually pivots, but the pins are not very good to, they're not very well molded in, and the way the holds it in the body, it's kind of vague, so trying to make that a little more accurate. Also the glue, I'm waiting for these to kind of dry, so I can't put a lot of force on them yet. So that's one of the other things. A little more shape to the body. So if you look on the side, it's a little bit tall on the top. It's a little better. I think that's good. I'm not going to stress too much about these. Kind of where I need it to be. Okay. If anybody has any questions, feel free to ask. Yeah. Have some conversation or dialogue. think we're good on these. Let's get a little final little touch up in here. Just take away any thick edges so that it's uniform. What I use, if you're wondering what grit this is, I think it's 320. Let me see what it is here. I take a sheet and I cut it up in these little squares. Then I just kind of keep them around. In case you're wondering what grit of sandpaper I'm using for, it's 220. So this is 220 grit, but it's high quality. It's wet, dry sandpaper, so you can get a lot of life out of them. You can leave them in the sink there and they're working, and you can go ahead and wet sand, and it'll last longer than if it's dry, actually. It's really good stuff. But I'll knock down any molding edges with this stuff, and then I'll go wet sand the car with this. And then I'll go to a finer grit, which is 400, and that's about all you do before paint. When you start getting into polishing and stuff, but you'll want very fine sandpaper and stuff like 2000 grit. But I'm not a real expert on that. If you want to learn about sanding and painting, there's some really good tutorials on that. Okay, so that's pretty much a couple of mold lines. I do have to take off the word fuel injection on the side because this car will not be fuel injected. It's going to be 2 4-wheel carbureted, so I'm actually going to just hit that with the stick so I can make it smooth. I didn't want to have to take this. I should have just built it fuel injected. It's really beautiful what they did here, but I'm going to knock that off. I'm going to have to just knock it off in its entirety. And then I do have, well, I'm not going to really get into photo etch. Never used it much. And this is probably not what I want to practice on because I don't have the time for that. Okay. Take out some of the sanding dust in there. Door gaps. Mold lines are on the top of the fenders here. Just knock them down. Okay. I'm gonna have to get paint on this thing fairly soon, but I gotta get that hood hinge figured out. That must be boring. 6 people only, yeah? We went up to 11 and
You're signing again.
well, it's is this okay what you guys are seeing? You like this? You can always see my face if you want. I can turn the camera.
I don't want to see you, so don't turn the camera on me.
Yeah, it's pretty much ready to go for wet sanding. just have a little more. Did all my edges earlier a little bit, like in here, the wheel wells. I want to make sure you get all of those nice. Hit there, a little bit of mold line. Okay, one of the things, there's a piece here, it goes in the body. This is a license plate holder, but in a way, I don't think it looks that good. I think I might just leave that out. I should look at what a back of a Corvette looks like here. What is it?
You're gonna go bang down gray on the body, right?
Oh, the body? No, the body is going silver. This is the color here, which is the color of the wheels. So the wheels are color matched to the body. If that's you're wondering what the body color is. The interior, I'll show you what I'm going to do. Just looking up. I know. I'm just looking something up so that I can know what I got to do here. Okay, I'll where is it? The interior I'm doing in blue. So what the color it'll be is this color here. So this car I haven't shown yet on my channel. I mean, I did an unboxing, but I'm working on finishing it up. So it's kind of like that GM glossy blue. And how I accomplish this blue on the interior is I actually use in 2 stages. I laid down the gray as the base coat so that I got some darkness to it. Then I hit it with this blue paint here, which really doesn't look good. When I put it on as an interior, it looks terrible. But then I take this Tamiya, this is PS49, and I spray it at a distance. I actually just kind of hit it very lightly, and that's it. I don't spray a coat. It's just like a light mist, and that light mist, when it hits it, just makes that other blue dance, and that's it. And I walk away from it, and it dries pretty quick. I wanted to do a red interior originally with an off-white car, but I didn't have red paint. So, and I had this silver, and it goes on nice and it dries quick. So I told myself that's what I was going to use. So that's what ended up. Car's going silver, so. What do I do with my file? There it is. Okay, I'm gonna let this I gotta let these pieces dry so I can do that hood. So what I'll work on now is the engine. Oops. What's that? Oh, I'm just working on the cylinder heads here. Just pulling the off of the tree, trimming them up. And then when I build an engine, I always like to, this surface here where you glue to, I always get my sanding board, and I block sand the base of the cylinder head so it's nice and flat. And then when you go to glue that onto the engine, it sits on there nice and flat. So also what I do is I get the intake manifold ready so that the gaps are right. I don't just glue the heads on and walk away. I gotta glue the heads down. Then I take intake. Now the intake I could paint after as well. Like engine's going orange. I try and glue as much stuff on the engine as possible, and then I take my brush paints and I paint things. Like the distributor will be glued in, the carburetor will be glued on. Then what I do is I spray it, then I hit it after with the brush paints and pick it off. And the reason I do that is because I find if you glue an engine parts on, it just falls off. The glue dries out, or because it's painted, you don't get a good adhesion. And then if you try to scrape off parts to get paint, then you end up touching it up anyway. So I just go ahead and I put as much of it together as possible, and then I'll paint the exhaust manifolds and stuff after. Like an example, going back to this Oldsmobile, the engine's not detailed yet, and it can still come out. But what I've done is I just painted the whole thing Oldsmobile gold, and then I'll go back and I'll paint things on it. So that's what's got to happen on that. So intake manifold. Go ahead and get my hand drill. It's the small one. The bigger one here. One of the things I did too was a test. This is just an old chassis out of my junk bin, but this is how I'm going to do the underside of this. I just test sprayed quickly. So these cars, even though they're fiberglass, they weren't really painted underneath, but the cars were sprayed with a red oxide primer in '63 before they were painted. So usually these floorboards will be fiberglass. You'll have some red oxide primer overspray and a little bit of the paint overspray, and the chassis will be black. I'm going to do it this way and then paint the exhaust and everything just to mimic red oxide primer. So that's kind of how I'm going to paint up this this chassis to give it a little bit more detailed and not be just black. So that's what I'm doing on that as well. Oh, I didn't drill that hole. Let's just drill the hole in the block here.
Gabriel says hi.
Oh, hi, Gabriel. Nice to have you join. So a lot of times I'll just take these pins off and I'll sand the intake as well. So, but in this case, it seems to fit pretty good. I always test fit your parts before you put any glue on it. And what I do is, of course, being a guy that works on real cars, I know that this is the front of the intake. You got your water neck. This is for your distributor. This one has a separate coil on the side. I think that's what they put there. So anyway, I'm going to go ahead and start gluing the cylinder heads on. Just brush, yeah. So this is, if you're wondering what I'm using, it's I'm using Plastic Magic glue. What I do is I pour it into a smaller container, so just to contamination reasons, and also if you spill it, you don't lose the whole bottle. And Yeah, so that's kind of what I
Yes,
do.
hi as well.
Who?
Dominic.
Dominic. Hi, Dominic. So, just going to, a lot of times I'll even sand these, like this has a big ridge, but if there's any guide pins, I'll just take them all off and then I can line up the cylinder heads the way they're supposed to be. And then what I do is I set my intake. If you wanted to paint the intake separate, you see how there's a gap here on a real car, this should not move back and forth. So what I do is I push the cylinder heads up so that the intake is tight to the cylinder heads, and then you want to make sure that I align up my my gaps, that they're even, so that the cylinder heads are nice and straight. And that's why I like working with this glue over super glue or CA glue or mercury vapor, because mercury adhesive, sorry, when you hit that glue on there, you got no time to move anything around. You put the part on, it's on there, it's strong, but you never get a chance to actually manipulate it and move it. On a small block, your cylinder head one is further ahead. So you go number 1, cylinder number 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And so this cylinder head is always like flush with the block, and this side will have your step. And on a real engine, that's usually, they might have a spot there where they stamp the serial number in, or model number, whatever. And then when you do your intake manifold, you want to check that your front to back is the same on this side. This looks like it has the correct offset, so you got to slide the cylinder head back a little bit so that your engine looks correct.
Dominic's asking if it's an Impala or
Well, Dominic, this is an Impala engine or a Chevy engine. What's like in a Biscayne or Bel Air from, it could be a 348 409 from 1958 to basically 64. But what I'm doing is it's going in a Corvette. It's never been done in a real car as far as I know. So I'm doing a what if. In 1963 when the Corvette came out, they only had the small block choices and stuff. So the whole thing was that what if they put the big block that GM had at the time into their 63 Corvette? But they, like all manufacturers, the first year when they make a car, they always, they save the best for last. They want you to buy a Corvette, and then they want you to buy another Corvette, 2 years from now when they release the big block. And that's kind of what happened here. And of course, GM knew they were in development in 1963 for a big block. If you know a little bit about Junior Johnson, he had these mysterious engines or mystery engines where they had, basically it was a different cylinder heads. It was a short stroke, big bore engine. And then it turned into the 427. So they knew by 1965 they had that. And then that became available. And also available in the Corvettes as well. So you can see that intake fits in there nice. And those heads are on there good. Okay, so if I wanted to paint this aluminum, boom, pop it on. I'm probably going to say it's going to have an aluminum intake instead of a cast intake for this. So I probably will paint that one separately, put it on separately. So we'll do it that way. Now, the valve covers though, I'm going to do them in orange. They're going to be painted with the engine, so we're going to install those.
Dominic's nice concept.
Oh, thanks, Dominic. Yeah. So that was the whole thing. So this is a kind of a what if car, but not modern, like very back in the day. So it's just going to have stock steelies. I'm thinking that it's kind of like almost like the Copo would have been in the late 60s if they would have done it in 63, kind of like either Copo Corvette. There's rumor that 63 Corvette made a Z06. To some articles that I was reading to try to see if they ever did do a 409 in a Corvette. I've never seen any indication that the 409 ever did come in a Corvette. And if you Google 409 in a Corvette, it's never been done. I mean, these cars hold such a high value, 1963 to 1967, that unless it was done back in the day, nobody would take a car now, because even if it's a small block car, an automatic, they have such high value. It's kind of funny. These cars, they either get resto modded with all modern stuff, or original, because that's where the value is. So as a YouTuber now, maybe one day if you go on my channel, maybe I can afford to buy a Corvette and a 409 and put it together, because both are expensive. 409 engine can set you back, if it's a true 409 and not a 348, you could be looking at $10,000 just for one that needs to be rebuilt. So it's kind of like the price of a 426 Hemi in a Dodge, to do a 409. And at the end of the day, the power, they're not that special. They look really nice. I love the looks of a 409. And so does everybody else. These valve covers are just unbelievable.
Steve says, Dad and I are working on a joint project for what if 1965 Lincoln two-door hardtop with the 65 Galaxy roof.
That's a cool concept that you're telling me about, the what you and your dad are working on there, Steve. That two-door, are you using the 65 Lincoln Continental, so you're making it a two-door. Are you shortening the body at all, or just lengthening the doors? That's my question for you. Double check how that fits. Always make sure my valve covers are nice and straight. What I love about this glue is it'll smooth out any sort of, because it's just a liquid, right? There's nothing, it doesn't stick to anything. It's just melts the plastic, welds it together. So you can use it to actually smooth out anything on any sort of ridges, kind of melt them down. It's beautiful. Awesome. So the next thing here be do the water pump. That's cool, Steve. That's they never did that body then in a two-door, so that's, I don't think, right? So that's a very cool idea. Those are big cars too. Are you taking pictures of it, Steve, and are you posting it anywhere? Or maybe if you get a chance, just send me some pictures if you're up for it. Just gonna clean that off there. Just a little bit of...
Steve responded. You heard? You read?
Yeah. Yeah, I talked to him. Yeah.
I did all the body work and guys doing the paint work. Good. Yeah, I got them on Facebook, but I'll send you over a pic here on Instagram so your wife can show you. I'll show you.
How's the Scott's car coming? The Plymouth. Did you get that finished up there, Steve?
Oh, Dominic has a comment.
Oh, Dominic, what do you got?
Yeah. My uncle bought a 62 Impala wagon with a 4-speed and a 409 brand new. Held the class record from 63 to 84 at Ilsit Speedway on Long Island. Well, that's cool.
That's very cool. I love station wagons with horsepower. I built even a 4-door sedan like a sleeper. I did in real life, I took a 76 Chrysler Newport, put a 440 6-pack in that car. It only had 18,000 miles on it. And that was a fun car. Interesting.
This down makes sense. Nice.
Yeah. I took it out to the track once, that car. I wanted to make a whole YouTube video on it. And the guy I had with me filming, the camera died and he didn't even get the footage of me doing the burnout. It was disappointing. And then I ended up selling the car. So I never really got to feature it on my channel. And it's, if I had a better place to keep, the car was just too nice. I couldn't park it in my garage. So it was just, thought I'd sell to somebody who could, take care of it. I wanted to, keep that car sort of on my channel and actually try out. Phytech came out with a fuel injection, and I'm not a fuel injection guy, but they came out with a 6-pack replacement with the two looks like three carburetors, and I wanted to do that for my channel. But of course, like even now, I've had the channel for a couple of years and it's still too far away financially. So it's, by the time I got around to it, I just thought, you know what, sell the car, I can always build something else. But that was the last big sleeper I had. And that car was not cheap to drive around. Because I loved opening up the 6-pack, the sound of it was it's just no description. And that was my biggest fear. If I went fuel injected, that it would lose that. It just had an unbelievable sound. And if that, with that car, driving it around, I mean, if I put $20, $30 gas in it, I could drive to a car show and back, and then the next time I drove it, I'd have to put fuel in it again. So it was a little bit tiresome for that. But boy, did that car move, especially on the highway.
Steelers Pond. I didn't defend too much on Scott's with 9 paint I used to replace the interior under the third coat.
So it left a thumbprint in the paint. That's
And he let it too.
wow. Like how long did it sit for, Steve? Like, did you just touch it when you got back, or when you? Check to see if these manifolds will. They should. I don't have much choice when it comes to 409 manifolds. Boy, that really fills up the engine bay. Well, hope I can close the hood. Should be able to. Oh yeah, I'll be okay. This is all good. center dump these kind of offset to the rear. That's good. All right. So yeah, I'll glue my manifolds on and then I'll paint them later. The beauty of building Dodges is the manifolds are actually painted engine color from factory. So if you're doing like a 440 or a Hemi, you can put your manifolds on, and then the trick is to kind of fade the burning paint, or just leave it as a brand new car. Probably what happened maybe was the clear coat went on too soon, because you kind of did it real quick and paint never got a chance to really off gas or cure underneath. I'm so scared to clear coat my models because of that reason. I've had I've had a car I've been working on for a while, and I went ahead and clear coated the thing, and it would look beautiful, and then I went and clear coated it. Now it's in the box until I calm down and go back to it. So I'm just, I know I'm scared. He showed me that clear coat. It seems to work pretty good, but I also passed the information on that clear coat at the last model club meeting. And a guy named Randy used it. He was happy. It went on really smooth, except when it dried, he had like a very orange peely, not harsh. I mean, he was able to get it out with 2000 grit wet sand and all that kind of stuff. And he didn't have a paint issue. Huh? Yeah. And so he quite liked it. He's so happy he's going to continue using that product. But yeah, paint sometimes needs a chance to off gas. And what happens if that clear dries so fast, it becomes like a barrier and it doesn't get a chance to cure. So sometimes when you go to clear coat something, you just have to have patience. Put the paint on, put it in a box, leave it for a couple of days or a week or whatever, and then go back to it. That's why even painting this model on the 24-hour build, I probably will not clear coat it. That's what people complained about last time. This was last year's 24-hour build model that I did. And I like it. I love the finish on this model. But a lot of people said, oh, you should have cleared it, made it shiny. But to me, cars in the 1960s or 70s never had that deep shine. And if you haven't seen the underside of this, there's the underside done just like the, Mopars. I did that with a rattle can. And then this has got the Hemi, but I didn't wire it or anything, didn't plumb it, but that's how that turned out. So this is a Revell with AMT wheels on it. So there we go. That's that AMT parts on a Revell like I was talking about earlier. And I drilled it so it has steel axles in it so that the wheels don't fall off. Other than that, pretty straightforward. I really got to find something that glues glass in. I always have a problem with glass. That's my biggest thing right now. I guess Plastic Magic makes a nice window glue. Problem with a lot of cars, you glue a window in and then you glue the car together and the window falls out. There's no way to really remedy it. You know, it's kind of a done deal. That's why, you know, making the chassis come out of the body was important for me. Let's see how that fits in there with manifolds. Oh yeah, so there's the exhaust outlets. So just like most GMs of this era, they'll dump here and then they'll connect to the exhaust. So I'll have to make some pipes for that, but that would be okay. That would actually work in the Corvette, at least in the model. Okay. I think these are AFB style carbs. I'm just going to trim these up and they will go on the intake. There's a shape on the bottom of how they would go. So I'll just memorize that. I'll sand that off because I want a flat base. Problem with the guide pins, you'll see there's a seam line here. That seam line you can actually catch with your knife. You can see it's so there's a little bit of an offset there. So they don't always glue good. So it's good to just flatten them out. Put them on. I said I can pick off all the colors for the carbs and stuff after. Let's do a little bit more of this. What's that? Yeah.
I'm going to grab the pictures.
Pictures. What?
There's a bunch of guys have seen the pictures. Gabriel and John Rick.
Oh. Oh, okay. I'm gonna just check something here.
Very.
Oh wow. Let's see. Is that
That's Mickey. That's Gabriel.
Hey Randy, I'm online. Can hang on a sec here. Can you go talking? I'm just gonna see here. Just double checking which carburetor goes on the front and the rear. Well, that's the offset intake. Oh, that would have been cool. Put the offset intake on. That would be super cool on the Corvette. Ooh. I wonder if that's in here.
Yeah, that was Gabriel.
That's the real wagon, isn't it? That's 62 wagon. Yeah. That's a nice station wagon.
Sorry, I was dumb.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It's Dominic, not Gabriel.
Yeah. No, Dominic, that's awesome. That's
Very good.
it's a sweet station wagon. Have you ever looked for a resin body of that and tried to build that up as a model? Are you into models?
That was on Mother's Day.
Yeah. Oh, you did the model of it. Right, I see it. Okay, sorry, just glanced over. Looked like the real car there. One picture was the real car.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, no, that looks awesome. What body was that? Like, who made that body?
That's the original car.
Yeah, like the resin. Is it a resin, or did you take the time to scratch that?
Oh, Gabriel said the green car is a 67 Barracuda or a 68 Charger. Sorry. Right.
Yeah.
Gabriel said yes. His dream car was a 67 Barracuda or 68 Charger.
Oh, very cool. It's a nice choice. I'd like to get a 68 Dart, put a Hemi in it, because to get a real Hemi Dart would be almost impossible. But nothing's impossible, you never know. So I got a little bit of maybe a height issue there. There's the carburetors. So it'll be interesting to see. It does come with a fairly flat pancake air cleaner. That would be...
It's resin. He found it on eBay. That was Dominic.
Oh,
and
nice.
He said I gave it him the model, and he got emotional. Said it was the greatest gift he ever got.
Oh, wow. That's fantastic.
So that's the Impala wagon that his uncle had.
Yeah. I love stories like that.
That's awesome, Dominic.
That's awesome. Yeah. Oh, that's really awesome. I love building models for people. I have one on the go right now that's a surprise. My neighbor, he's Bob Rougeau, and this was his race car back in the day. It's 57 Chevy, and so if you can see with the gloss here. Anyway, the Prospector. Now his son, actually Jay Rougeau, races a funny car that is called the Prospector, and it has a fiberglass 57 body on it. And so anyway, I want to build this 57 Chevy for him, so I've done a lot of the modifications. Again, another Revell with Amt wheels on it. And I did hood hinges on this model with brass hood hinges for him, so he doesn't know I'm really doing this for him. So this is kind of a surprise, just like that. So I can't wait to. I got to get it done so I can give it to him and do it on camera, and I think it'd be kind of a fun thing to do for the channel as well. So it's very cool. I like it when people don't expect it and then it happens, right? That's always the best. So, well, there you go. 409 and a Corvette. That looks beautiful, I think. I gotta find the air cleaner. I put it down here somewhere. I don't know where I did it. But anyway, it doesn't have to happen right this second. But there is possibly a hood clearance issue, right? That's pretty close. Pretty close. Maybe that's why they didn't put the 409 in the Corvette. Anyhow. I'll have to figure that out. Okay, so leave it up to me to complicate something. I could just build the model, right? But no, I got to complicate it. got to make it something that's going to be like unexpected. Can't really drop the engine down much more due to manifolds. It's sitting in there kind of nicely with the way the oil pan is. It's got good clearance. It's nice. It's perfect. It's just like it would have been if it was done by the boys at GM. So, going to continue that. Let that dry a bit. I can work on that. I'll let this kind of dry a little bit, then I can. So I'll do the assembly of the fan sort of set up on something I can paint it.
Yeah, drawing. Looks great. Hope it's the carbs and such doesn't fit. It doesn't hit.
Yeah, I have a few tricks up my sleeve when it comes to.
Yeah. And Dominic said that's awesome. I love surprising people with building cars.
Yeah. Yeah, I always like building cars of actual things, actual, like something I've seen or something that really exists. So I enjoy like what Steve does there. He did the cars from Cold War Motors, a few of them. If you've ever seen him, he was on my channel. He's on the live here. And he, it's very cool when you build something that exists. I gotta figure that cross member out too. I just keep adding to the list, eh? What did they do on the Corvette here? Provide anything for that? Okay. Great. Then just dry test fitting. This piece I'll paint separate. That's funny how they did that, eh? Perfect. This is the generator. Now on 63, they still had generators. I think 62 might have been the last year for a generator, so 63 would have an alternator. I'm gonna have to just check. Yeah, 62 was the last year GM used generators. How's Michael doing? Yeah, let me just look here and see.
How many hours in the 24-hour? How many hours in on the 24 hours are you? Dominic wants to know.
Okay, Dominic, I'm now 9.5 hours in. And go to 60. That's fine. I'm just Googling to see if they have. Yeah, 1963 they had alternator. So I'm not going to glue a generator on there. That would be wrong. That's what I figured. So I got to find the alternator from the Corvette, which is in the box. Okay. So one. Probably was chromed, and I de-chromed it, so it's somewhere here. well, going back to the instructions on the Corvette, let's see what they say here. The alternator was on the chrome tree. Yes, it was. It was. So, like I said, it should still be around. All right, well. Oh, there it is. No, there's no way. That's gross looking. Okay, it's not getting that one. For sure not getting that alternator. So, I'm on the hunt for an alternator. GM alternator. Okay. Resin parts to the rescue, right? So let's see what we got here. Alrighty. Should have a bag with a bunch of, if these are carburetors, I should also have alternators like that somewhere. Superchargers. Oh. Starters, check out those. Those are really nice starters. These are like awesome looking headers, shorty ones for GM small block. More carburetors, wheels, turbochargers. Come on, I know I got GM alternators. I got a whole bag of them. Blow-off valves. Go figure. Alrighty. Really? Ah, the very last bag in the whole thing. There we go. GM alternator. So let's get one of those out. Just need one of them. One GM alternator. This is really nice, actually. Too bad I got to cut off the nice little pulley it comes with. That's okay. All right, so I will just have to knock off that pulley. And then, oh, this is so cool. I can save that later. Just drill out the middle here. Drill out the center. Start with that smaller one here. This is it's sharper. Guy here. Drill that out. It should fit over the stub here. Okay, this is not glued onto the engine yet, so just I'm going to use a little bit of this just to soften the pin a little bit. Okay. Allow me to push that in there. Okay. Now, I'm going to have to use super glue because this is sort of a dissimilar plastic, if you will. It's 3D printed. And the electrical leads there, perfect. That on there. Make sure it's nice and straight. Don't get much time with super glue. It's like boom when it's on. And that's it. Once you're in place, you're in place. Okay.
Steve says, interesting issue I have here. I'm watching live and thinking how the heck I would build this Myers-Manx front suspension axles.
Well, Steve, bring that over and we'll I can help you with that. There we go. Alternator. Now let's see if that fits in here. We're getting close here. Close to where the engine cannot install. I can't get it ahead enough. I might have to install this after. That's fine. So,
2 minutes for the one.
how many?
82.
82. Okay.
I figured
It's
out
in place.
small tubular and just I use my P-frame to get it figured.
You'll get it figured. You'll get that figured there, Steve. Okay. Cool. Well, all right, get that painted up. Engine in. Alrighty. Intake get painted. Now that these carbs are dry, I can just give that a quick little sand here. Nice and flat. Okay. All right. So, get my little painting board here. These are dry. Wheel backs. After this, I really got to get my body in paint. Go on there. This little guy. Get a piece of tree or something there. There you go. Styrene. And we'll let's do that. Glue that on there. I can go hit that with some paint. Okay, there's the painted pulley system. Now what I'll do, I'll paint the belt black and then the alternator aluminum. I'll just leave the pulleys that charcoal gray color. Just gotta find a place to put that. Now, I need to paint the intake. So there's the intake there. Let's put that up. There you go, intake's all painted. Just have to let that dry. And got to get the distributor and things on that. And I got to get this body ready for paint. So to do so, got to get that hood hinge system finished. I wanted. Yeah. Okay. It should be dry enough now to work with. I was going to ask you, Steve, here, if you're still on, do you, for that Volkswagen front suspension, do you have anything to reference other than like the instruction manual, or do you have another one that's like in one piece, or do you have another Volkswagen kit that you can see what the piece looks like, or what the front end should look like? Should be good. Just a little surprised by the... Is there a burr or something on this? Usually these pins slide in no problem. I use a certain size of tubing, certain size of brass. Something, you know what, my brass is too big. Using too big a brass. I gotta find the right size of brass there. That, or I used the wrong size of tubing. That would be a setback, wouldn't it? Oh man, what's going on here? This is what happens when you work long hours. You kind of proof on this stuff. Could be an option, but size. Yep. Oh, hey. Hey, Jess, I'm just looking for some tubing right now. I've been doing good. And confused. Guess I have the wrong size. It's really odd. Did I do? I must have run out of that. That's unusual.
Square tubing?
No, I'm looking at this round. I just might have to do it.
Square tubing.
I might just have to do it out of steel. Usually I like to work with brass on this, but I'll have to possibly just do it out of steel. Yeah. Yeah. Mm. What's that? Yeah. I'm just trying to get a length on these pins. I don't know why I chose to do something so complicated for a 24-hour build. It's typical, something I do. Just gonna cut 2 pins the same length. Hard to work with this stuff. It's small. Okay. So just make sure that most of my body work is done on this guy. Because let's see if I can. What size is that? Okay. What else am I saying? Okay, nothing. Let me try something here. I want to see what size this field it ends up being. Test it with this and see. Okay. It's a bit big. Let's try another block here. I think I'm just going to go the easy way here. Cut a couple of these. Not going to stress about this. Getting it too bang on. Okay. I'm going to get a little bit of super glue there. So like here. Okay. Let that set up a little bit. A little bit of super glue on here. Strength. Okay. Edges off. Okay. Let that dry first. Okay. One of the interesting things about this model is that the corners of the hood on the real car, these corners are supposed to be sharp, not rounded. So, I mean, I didn't want to, it could have made that correction quite easily. If you're a fussy person and you want it to be exact, that's one of the things you'd want to do. But anyway, I'm not worried about that. What I'm doing with the hood here is just making sure I have an even gap. And because the hood sits high here, it has to go down, so it has to clear. Otherwise you're gonna take paint off and everything there. So gaps have to be good and the fitment has to be good. So I'm gonna take a little more off the sides. Get that thickness down there. One of the things I could have done is just put an improper hinge on here where like the hood would just lift up and over. But then that wouldn't be the way the hood actually opens. So just have to have the right amount of gap around there. So when you get it painted, you got room for the paint and it's not going to start chipping the paint or gluing itself in there. This is how not to do a hood hinge. Because what I'm doing here is this hood will be on for the paint job, which I've successfully done that in the past with no issues. But if usually you want to keep it so you can remove the hood. So in a case of the Shelby Mustang I'm working on, I did the hood hinges on it, but the hood is still removable. And then to install it, you just have to get your hood hinges up, and then you can slide it on. And then when you're done the model and it's all painted, you can just dab those with super glue, you know, when the hood's closed, and then it should be okay. But in any case, I need to, I guess I could have made these 90s and then made the hood slide on, but it's too late now. So what the plan is just to put on these bushings here, glue those bushings to the hood, make sure my hood alignment is good, and then I'll just have to paint the model, the hood, the body. Just like a real car, sometimes it's on when you do it. So that's the way that's going to be. So I'm going to hit that with plastic magic here. And then see, make sure my hood alignment's good. I'm not sure it's going to happen, is it? Yeah, it's coming. One of the things I should have done was angled the edge of the body. Yeah, just lost my knife. Well, it's going good. I should, how's my build going? Yeah, I need to get paint happening because, right, well, sometimes what I can do is I can get paint on the body, and then I can go have a little bit of a sleep and come back to it. But after I get paint on the body, I got to get all the interior shot and all of the chassis done beforehand. So what I'm gonna do, I might have to just, take this hood off again just to angle the I'm gonna have to just kind of pop these off. That's why I like working with this glue. I can work with it, right? It gives me a chance to test fit. I'm not completely married to the idea until I know for sure. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to cut a little bit of an angle here on the inside of the body, not to affect the body line. What that will do is give it more clearance for it to drop down.
Turn for the search. 14 watching.
I'm just going to do that. Leave it up to me to do hood hinges for the 24-hour build, right? So that will thin that out so the body can drop in there. And if I'm going to take anything off, I don't want to take it off on the body. I'm going to take it off on the hood for length. So I'm just going to use my flat board here. I accidentally caught the edge there, so I'm going to try and clean that up. So that it's got a nice straight edge on it. And then just clean up those corners. Okay. Yeah, I do. I do. Okay. Fortunately, there's going to be a little bit of a gap there. And then if I can get that hood to drop a little bit, just a little bit on the sides here. If you're just tuning in and you don't know what I'm doing here, I'm actually thinning out the hood a little bit so that it sits, because the body is a little bit thinner than the hood, because what AMT had done here, or the boys at Round 2, they retooled this body, and it's really nice actually. I have to say, if you're in a slot car racing or something like that, this body is very unique, like it's very uniform now. The old ones were very thick on the sides. You can see a lot of times, like even this wasn't really carved out on the original. So this is more like what you would find in a Japanese kit. It just has the right amount of plastic everywhere, but it has no room or forgiveness to do anything else with it. So if you need to sand something down or whatever, shape it, like for instance, this Chevy truck hood, I turned it from a 72 to a 67 hood. It's so thick that you're able to work with it. Okay. And this 63 Corvette was very much like that when it was an older release. What Round 2 did was thin this body out, but the rest of the parts, like the hood and all the other parts that fit in the car, like these taillights, they didn't fit in there. If you go back and watch, or the guys have been watching, if they've been continue watching, I had to shave these down because they stuck way out, because they were designed to go through a thick plastic body. So this hood is much thicker than the model. So even though there's nice detail on the inside, I'm sacrificing that detail so that I can get the hood to close and not be sticking way up on the car. And of course, I did that to myself by adding this plastic edge, like an inner fender liner on a real car, because I wanted to make the hood hinges, and I just wanted to make my life more difficult than it needed to be. But that's okay. I'm okay with that. It's a 24-hour build, yeah, but I still want to build the model kind of the way I would like to build it, because I bought this Corvette because it's my favorite year of Corvette, and I wanted to sort of build it like this anyway, so I might as well do an okay job on it, right? So it just takes a little bit of time. So I can't get it perfect. It's going to be just too much if I try to get this any thinner. So I'm just going to do a final little sand here, because once this is on, it's on now. There's no coming back from it. It's a little bit of detail. It's not going to be, it's just going to be whatever underneath. It's not going to be terrible. Okay. Now I'll put these two pieces back on again. Same two pieces. Okay. I'll put the glue part up again. Set the hood in here. Okay, and then I will take my plastic magic here and give that a little bit of a hit. I'll just push those up to the end. Okay. So now we want to line up the hood gap so that we have the same on the left and the right. And you also want to make sure you have a hood gap, because if you don't, the paint's going to fill that gap, and then you're not going to be able to do much with it. So we're just going to let that happen. Should open up nice without it hitting anything. Yeah, there we go. Well, here's the thing. If you want an opening, you gotta fight for it. Otherwise, you just leave the hood loose, and then you tip the model upside down, hood comes off, and then slips out of your hand, hits the floor. It always lands on the corner, takes a big chip out of the paint. So sometimes you end up with a flat black hood. And then it's now a race car. It can happen. So anyway, now that glue is dry enough, quick enough that I can now, open that up, close it. There we go. So you're probably wondering how you're going to paint that. Now you really kind of goofed yourself up, right? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the base color, which isn't a big deal, like primer sort of thing. And then that one will be just, I'll be able to do it open and closed and whatever. And then what I'll do, I'll probably just make a little something that'll hold it up about like that. And then when I spray the color on it, it'll be okay. Well, good luck, Throttle Power. Go back to the model bench. I guess one of the questions I have for everybody that's on here is, anybody else that's watching, comment. Did they? Are you also doing the 24-hour build? Am I the only one, or that's on here? I mean, that's anybody. Have I asked Katerina about that hubcap? You know what? I have. She's, a little bit hasn't really responded to me. Now I'm gonna phone her because she's coming up here, I think Tuesday or Wednesday. So maybe I can get her to bring it. That would be nice. she's getting some work done or something from somebody. She wants me to actually go pick up some exhaust manifold bolts. She has a Mustang that she bought that's got a 302 in it now. It's her old convertible that she had, and the V6 kind of, went by the wayside. So somebody bought the car, then they put a V8 in it, and then now she bought it back. So anyway, she's coming up to get something done, some EBK headers and some distributor, I think. Okay, I'm really liking this. It's considering I did this in a hurry, this is actually looking and working quite well. And if you're wondering, this is actually how the hinge is on the real car. It's not much more complicated than this. It doesn't open over, it opens, part of the hood goes under, and so the model did get it right, but because they did the same thing with the old one, they redid the body, like I said. What happens is it doesn't, they didn't have the revision to hold the hood in place, and anyway, so this way I wanted to do here. So let's test fit it. So why it's very important, you gotta test fit your model like all the time to get it right. Let's see if it actually opens. Oh, look at that. Look at that. It opens, and it doesn't hit the rad support. It has some sort of friction there, which is good to kind of keep it, well, or it's bad. I'm gonna have to notch out the rad support a little bit because it's putting too much pressure on it. That's okay. That's why we're test fitting it, and that's why this isn't painted yet. I just have to notch out a little bit of this. So I'll just use my little, this is where all the wheels fall off, right? Ah, exactly what happens. I think I hit that with super glue. So that's super glue. Okay. All right. This is where it all happens here. So just gonna knock this down a little bit. Okay, do the same on the other side. There we go. You'll just have to take out a little bit in that corner, just so that it's got place for that. This gray is just like this charcoal gray I'm using just as a base coat. So this part will be flat black where I'm cutting, and I'll be spraying that. So that'll be the next sort of one of the colors. And so in that way, I will be, I won't even have to go back and use the gray again. I can just go right to the black, and it'll touch up those corners. It's not a problem. This is why building a model, especially an AMT, is like building a hot rod in real life. You end up building the entire car and then like disassembling it for paint. It's if you want it to truly fit, everything fit right, that's what you have to do. If you go ahead and you start painting it and then you put it on, that's it, right? That's good. Boy, I like that. That turned out good in there. Okay. That's good. So I'm going to have to start getting some paint happening here. So that's okay. I'm going to go ahead with some super glue and then just kind of just apply it in here just to give it some strength. This glue is very strong. It like welds the plastic together, and then by the addition of the super glue gives it a little bit of like it's like adding a gusset, right? Gives it a little bit more. This glue doesn't have anything to add to the material. It's just plastic to plastic. And then when you want some strength, you take the super glue and you just, like right now, I'm just going to make sure I got enough in here. I'm just going to hit that and make sure that it's nice and welded together. And then I'll use the super glue like a little bit of extra body to hold it together. I'm just going to go ahead and do that. And then what I'll do is I'll let that sort of dry for a minute. I'll figure out something else I can do while that's happening. So that's good. So the wheel backs are painted flat black sort of thing. Okay. Intake manifold here is aluminum now. And I was going to glue on the distributor. I guess I forgot to do that. That's okay. Still do that. Sort of thing. So this here's a voltage regulator. Would be for the generator. Because I went to an alternator, they had a voltage regulator too in 63. They didn't get rid of that until like the 70s, early 70s. So they had the regulator built into the alternator after that, the GM10SI. So I won't be using this to detail under the hood because I don't need to. I plan on using the master cylinder. I cut off the old one. It was molded into the right onto this. So I decided I'm going to use one that glues on just to give a little more detail. And then I'll use the distributor, the oil fill for the front of the engine there. And then, of course, the starter and stuff. And then I'll probably try and use this fan if I can get a fan in there. Probably should have left this fan shroud out. But that's okay. No big deal. Just gonna trim this up a little bit more. And make it look the same left to right. Okay. Anybody see anything? Oh, Katerina is in the, of course. Hey, Katerina, yeah. She's in the chat here. I'm talking about Katerina and she's watching me. Are you coming up this week? Are you still there? Are you, is that the plan? I pay attention, but you know, I'm like, I have to apologize when you're doing stuff like this and you're actually working on something. You're kind of, my mind is focused on this, so I apologize. But that's okay. Give that one more test fit. Okay. Everything's good there. A little bit of trimming on up there. And then I wonder if there's a way to make it open more. It stops against the thing there, so that's okay. Okay. That's fine. I could probably do that too. So this part here gets trimmed off. And then this part is where the hood actually goes up against, so I could knock some of that down. And that will allow the hood to open a little more. I don't want it to open all the way. I want to use this as a stop, because then the hood will, it won't, like if it has a stop, then it won't over open and you won't chip the paint. So that's kind of a good thing, that it'll stop against this part of the chassis here. Let's go for another test fit. There we go. Oh, there we go. Okay. So what's it hitting there now? Same thing. So that side there, take a little more off. Okay. Beautiful. It's kind of exciting, actually, to be honest. I'm liking how this is turning out. That's a good thing. When you're doing a model like this, you have to really enjoy what you're doing, like to be doing it in 24 hours. I actually picked this model out last year after finishing the other 24-hour build, and was like, if I haven't touched this model, that's going to be next year's. So I made up my mind then that I want to do this Corvette. So it would be nice if I could get it so it would open enough to stay up by itself. But that's probably not going to happen, because I couldn't get it enough. Well, let's try one more time. If not, I'll just have to use a little prop rod or something. Let's take a little more off here. Let's go to the drastic measures. I'll take more off this side now because of that. Go. Let's try this again. Doesn't have to open much more. No, that's close enough for now. That's not going to get it much more, and that's quite good, I think. On the real car, they use an arm that when you open it, it clicks, and then you either lift it up and it unclicks like a British car, or you reach over and you just kind of just grab the rod, and then it'll drop back to the neutral position and let it come down. But to build something that small, they don't use a prop rod. It's a little sort of a deal there. Okay. Let's take a little more off. I only have a little bit more I can go, and then it's completely out of place for that. Okay. That's fine. It looks like the original one used the little nub in the middle as a stop. But that's the thing about like old models. They just, the first release of it, everything's designed to work. And then when they make changes, sometimes those changes don't allow what was originally intended. Hey, look at that. Hey, that'll stay up. I'm sure that'll stay up. If it's on something level, look at that. So I don't even need a prop rod. Well, maybe I will. But anyway, at least that's good enough. I think that would be, I'm very happy with that result. Okay. Just that, so that's ready to go. I've kind of cleaned up all the flash around the windows and kind of done all that already. I'm not going to get too involved. If I see something, I'll get it cleaned up. But I'm going to have to just start getting paint on this. Now the glass on this I've test fitted once. Well, it's important to test fit everything. So this little lip underneath here that I glued, actually glass goes under that, which is good. Kind of holds it into place. And this glass is huge for the model. I mean, to give you an example, it's actually kind of gross because maybe it has to drop down more. Yeah. So I'm going to have to either A, shave this out, or B, shave the bottom of the glass. So this is all what it comes down to, right? This is designed to kind of come way down. I thought I could tuck it under here, but my best bet would be not mess with the glass. If you start working with this, it's so kind of brittle. What happens, it just kind of chips away. It doesn't really do a good job. So I'd be better off working away at the material I have here. So I'm just going to slowly do this, because if you go at it too fast, you're going to regret it. In fact, I could use my little Dremel. Real gentle. Okay. Okay, good. I'll just use a little bit of a sandpaper, just give that a final little sand. Just see. I was gonna, if you have more time, what you do is you paint this roof the interior color, and then you, then at least when you look in there, the interior color is on the roof. But I don't think I'm going to have time to pull that off. But we'll see here. So unfortunately, I got to sleep, right? So now that glass fits. So we'll test fit the glass with the interior, because you want to make sure all this stuff fits before paint. Binding or anything like that. Look at that. I can put that glass in there without any glue. I think that's just gonna sit in there. So that'll be how that will be. A little bit of trimming on where the vent windows are, which is what I noticed. A little bit. If you notice, there's a little bit of hanging over the edge here. So this is what makes it interesting. I don't think it can push it up ahead enough to clear that. So I'm gonna have to work away at that. But that I can do after we get some paint work done, I think. Just double check that I still have contact on these pads here on the inside. There's nothing holding the body down. This it's a uniform. You see a little bit of the chassis below the trim on this car, both sides, and that's sort of the same on both sides, which it is. So we're good. We're good there. So I'll put the glass away. Doesn't get scratched. Yeah, like it was built that way. Exactly. So I got to remember I'm going to have to file the. It looks like some of that's just kind of flash on the glass, so we'll get that cleaned up. So now that this is dry, right, like it's nice and strong, I can do that super glue trick I was talking about. Let's see if I can take a little more out of here, make it level. And the glass will fit a little bit tighter in here. What's that? Yeah, I'm sure I can figure it out.
I'm sure I
Can't watch it. No, that's fine. I'm enjoying it. I don't mind doing this. So how long have we been on here?
2 hours.
2 hours, yeah. It's okay. So what I do, I put tape down here. I don't know if you can see. I use masking tape. And if I'm going to paint something, I'll dip it on the masking tape and then I'll use the brush from there. Or I want to use some super glue. So instead of going to the model and squeezing the tube and whoops, you got it all over the place and you got all over your fingers and your model. Then I use this little pointing stick. It's metal, so when the glue dries, I just take my sandpaper and just give that a clean off when it's done and dry, right? So it's clean every time, and then I can go in here with this and just add the super glue that I want where I want it. I got to remember not to get any super glue on that metal pin, because if I do, the hood will be permanently shut or permanently open. Not where I want it to be. So I can't put any on the ends because I'll risk hitting that pin. There we go. So I'll let that dry. And there we go. And then when you're done, you can take the super glue or whatever's contaminated and you can toss that out. And you don't accidentally stick your hand in it or anything like that. Done. So that's the tip for the day. So now, okay, that's been painted. Okay, that's sort of there. I'll have to get some base coat on this. So what I do to paint an engine is I take a drill bit. I usually pick the crankshaft hole or use the transmission hole, but in this case, the tail shaft already has a pin glued in it to engage on the chassis here, which again is kind of put me in a spot where I have to get that engaged. If I had it like that, I could bring it down and put the fan and everything on. So I may actually have to take that out of there, because the whole idea was to or maybe just shorten it, you know, so it doesn't have to engage so much. But anyway, I don't have a way to really hold the engine to paint it because there's no hole at the back. I usually shove an axle in the back. So in this case, I'll have to just put the axle in front. And then that little drill bit. It's right at the bottom of the block. So an issue there. Since that hole will be covered up by the crankshaft anyway, I can do that. Now it won't fall off. I can go ahead and spray this. Except I want to put the starter on first, because I'll just take that off with one of this brush paint that, like the manifolds and stuff. So I'll just get the starter off here. All right. Here's on that way, or yeah, it'd be this way. Okay. What I do is I get enough glue up here on the solenoid. Gives a nice strong bond, doesn't fall off the motor. And get some nice amount here. So you can see what a pain this would be if I was gluing this on after it was painted, because I'm fussy. Like, my stars have to be straight, if they're crooked or, So this allows me to line everything up, get it right, that it's parallel to the block this way as well as this way. And then I'd rather sacrifice the possibility of losing some color behind the starter. We're not going to see it anyway. And having it straight. See what I'm doing with this glue here? I'm just using it to smooth out that line. Just take it away in the starter. And then also, you can do the same on seams like on transmissions. You can just do that. And then if you want to texture it up, you can. Just dip it like that. It was like the seam was never there. When you paint that, gone. Gone. Okay. So there's that. I actually did that with the sinks here. I ground them out, but they kind of turned out worse than I thought. When I got paint on it, you can see, I mean, those circles, they stuck up, so I ground them down with the Dremel. And then I used the glue and I went over them, and then I dabbed it to kind of bring the carpet back to it. But the texture, ideally flocking this would be nice. I just don't have it. And I've never done it. I don't have the materials for it. I think you use white glue as the thing, and then you sprinkle it on and run it through a sifter, from what I've seen. But in any case, I don't have any of that stuff to do it. So what I can do is I can hit this interior. I'll just get some tape here. If I paint this interior first, I can I can tape off the interior quite easily. Then, like, doing all the detail paint to the chassis, and then try and tape if I get a little bit of overspray on the chassis right now, it's not going to affect anything. So I can just rough tape this off with masking tape. It doesn't have to be fine blue or anything like that. Special tape. Okay, see you, Steve. Thank you for joining, and have a good night, and good luck with that Myers Minx. If you need help with that front end, just let me know. I have a couple Volkswagen kits here that I could reference. Tape sticks to each other really well, doesn't it? Which one? Huh? So what about them? Why? Yeah. Okay.
How good is a V8? Right. From Steve.
Yeah, I talked to Steve there about that. Yeah. Okay. This tape has lost its stickiness. Now it doesn't do anything. Resort to this stuff here. Let's give that a little bit of a take off. Huh? He's here? Well, you could tell him you can. Do you want to call him back? Okay, I'm just gonna do that. Taping is not my best job here, but it's okay. Just need to just shoot this interior. Okay. So what I'm gonna do, it's all just roughly taped off here. I'm gonna go ahead and shake up this blue, and I'll show you what happens. I'll be right back. I'll just go and hit this. Robert's Garage, hey, I'm just gonna go throw some paint on this real quick. Okay, so this is that blue I talked about. It's not very pretty, okay? So what I do is I take this Tamiya here, and I'm just gonna hit it very, very lightly. Quick dust. I'm not gonna sit there and spray it, and it'll change the way this interior looks. Okay, so there we go. It's just, I did it from far away. Just gave it a quick shot. And now it looks like sort of that glossy vinyl GM blue that came in those 60s cars. So now I can untape this. Let that dry. And when it dries, I can tape off the interior, and then I can do all the other paintwork to this chassis. See, I can do all the other paintwork to the chassis, and the interior will be painted. So I'm just going to let that dry because I'm going to have to do some details in here with the brush, and so I'll tape off the dash and do that next too. So anyway, now I can let that sit for a minute and let that dry. I should almost clean up my workstation here a little bit. It's getting out of hand. I know I should be wearing gloves. I got a painted nail now. That's okay. I'll go wash my hands and get that off. So just going to make sure everything's good around these taillights again, and there's nothing stuck to them. Okay. I think this body will be ready for a hit of paint here. Just going to, what am I looking for? Right. Oh, let's clean all this up here. Oh, engine, let me go spray this quick. And I'll clean up here a little bit. Okay, so there we have our 409 done in the base color, which is this dark charcoal gray. Now, the reason I do the base color in this dark charcoal gray is it allows me to paint it well. It's a good paint, goes on nice, it covers well, gets into all the little crevices, as you can see. So now when I go ahead, I'll hit this with orange. First thing I'm going to do, I'll tape the transmission off because it has to be this color anyway. Then when I hit the engine with orange, it will, I don't have to get real persnickety. I don't have to sit there and spray it hard. Just get the color on the engine. And then when that dries, I can go and brush off all the other pieces, and like the manifolds, the starter, fuel pump, things like that. And it'll be ready to go. And if there's a little bit of dark cast where the orange doesn't go, that would look pretty normal. It gives the engine some depth, if you will. It's not just bright. It actually, you know, the engine is this color when it's raw cast. When you paint the orange on top of it, then it'll leave that cast below it in areas. So that's kind of why I do that on all of this stuff. Even the interior, if you notice, it's got some, it looks like it's not all one hard color. It has a little bit of depth to it because I just sort of started with the dark gray, and then you put on a blue, then you hit that little gloss blue on there, and away you go. Robert's Garage there, are you still here? Are you, just give me a type something if you're still here. I'll show you something in models, because you're into 67 to 72 Chevy pickup trucks. Doing a model one, I just show you. But anyway, I guess I could show anyway. If Robert's there, he'll see this. But I mean, I did show this earlier. This is an upcoming sort of how-to I'm going to do on the video. This is a 72 Chevy pickup truck that I've turned into a 67. Doing the hood modifications, some grill modifications. I still got corner markers to do, and the corners of the grill have to be a little different. And then I've also going to show how to make a long box into a short box. So if you haven't seen it, that's what I'm planning on doing there. But I'll do a full video on how I accomplish that. Measurements, all of that stuff. So if you want to do it yourself, it'll be like a recipe. You can just copy the recipe. Let's see here. I'm just gonna, this is all empty here, so I'm just gonna downsize the tree. I like to do that so that I can organize lots of junk on the table here that needs you clean off. Getting a little bit messy here. It's funny, I'll be working on a model car and then I want to film it for the channel. I got to clean my desk off. I almost need to make like a filming station and then a working station so that I can just pop over and film it. Sometimes it's easy to get sidetracked. To be working on something and then you're cleaning up and then you start working on it again and then you're like, oh, I should have filmed it. So that can happen too. Wheel backs can go there. Fan. Generator I'm not using, but don't want to get rid of it. It's a little brush. This is a little quick tip. Use a brush. Nice big paintbrush for cleaning up stuff like this. I'm done most of the scratch building stuff, so I can put all this plastic away. The rest of this stuff can go. That's useful. Okay, there we go. Nice clean work area. Okay, now I can figure out this piece here is was chrome, and it goes in where the license plate goes, but I'm not sure I like the way it fits or looks. I just got to look. I have a Corvette license plate that I want to put on it. As long as it fits in there afterwards, it'll be okay. I think I add to it. Yeah, just add to it. Let me just. This is all the little stuff that takes time. That's what happens when you're fussy. You could just do it, but then, you know. Okay. Just adding a piece of plastic to this here. And then I'll have to shape it how it fits. Okay, so what I'll do, this side here is harder to work with, so I'll try and get that as flush as possible. Okay, then I can change that after. Once that's dry, which won't take too long, I can sand that out and make it fill that gap in the body. And then when it gets painted, it's all good. So I have to fix that before I can put paint on this. That's got to go in there. So check the hood. Hood opens nice. Good. Perfect. I guess the next biggest thing will be the bumpers. I can also detail up the wheels, and also the steering wheel. I can paint that, so we can work on. Let's paint that steering wheel. So the color I found I like is this copper color, hammered copper they call it, but it looks almost like that GM wood grain color. I find wood, I don't know, if you buy wood paint, it doesn't really look like wood. So, of course, the GM wheels are a nice warm kind of a wood color. So I find this is the best. This is what I do with the tapes. I put it down here. A little drop of that on. Now this is Model Air, basically, but this is another, I don't know, variation of it. It's designed to run directly through your airbrush. So the point is that you don't really use it, right? Like you don't brush it on, but I like the way it brushes on. It's very thin. It's not like Tamiya. Tamiya, I don't know if you've ever worked with that, but if you have, you'll notice it kind of picks up and drags. It's almost like this stuff just goes on so nice. Just gonna easily, and it's not like it covers well, and if you hit the other end of it, it doesn't start picking up on you and bowling. That's what I find with Tamiya is it's just so unforgiving. It's okay if you're working around like this. As soon as you go to do something, it starts kind of picking up and getting thick, and this you can just kind of work it and work it. I don't know if you can see that color there, but you see what I mean by I just like the way this color looks as a wooden wheel. And it's probably not 100%, but seem to like it, so it's the treatment it's going to get. There we go. One wooden GM wheel with the sorry, I'm trying to make sure it lines up for you this way. This is the photo etch set for 63 Corvette, so it comes with the correct horn button and the steering column. I used a piece of aluminum there to make a steering column. It wasn't really a machine steering column, but it was a piece that looked like it would work for it. So just kind of, I don't have to paint it. It looks nice. And now I can't set the wheel down this way because the paint's wet. So I gotta find a little something to almost hold it. Let's see what I can find. Sometimes you can just use a clamp. Should have clamped it first. Or painted it. Okay, there we go. So that works. I can then set that somewhere and let that dry. There we go. Steering wheel's painted. So you see what I did there? Paint gone. Don't have to worry about dipping it, making a mess. Just get a little water cup and I can clean the brush. No big deal. It's water-based paint, so it's easy to clean. See if this is dry enough yet to work with. Need my sharp knife here. Good. See? Yeah. Interesting. Okay, let's trim the ends off. I can tell you working with this plastic magic glue has really changed what I'm able to do with modeling. You know, to make a repair like this, CA glue would be doable, but it would kind of be painful. I'm just going to move this so I don't get sanding dust in it. So when I'm sanding it, it gets a little bit tacky on the sanding board. That means the glue's a little still wet. So I'll just let that dry a little bit. But the idea is when I get this in there, that'll fill in. See, it'll almost fit in there perfectly. I just have to sand a little bit off the bottom. And then there won't be a big gap there. When you put a plate on that, it'll look good. So that's the idea there. The chrome on this car, I'm going to use a Molotov pen to do that. That's a chrome pen. That's how I did last year's. I'm not going to bare metal foil it, so that'll be everything I need to do to it. Being that the car is silver, it's going to be forgiving on that aspect anyway with things. Is Randy coming? No. So. This is close to getting done here. There we go. There we go. Let's take the knife and do this side. A little bit of trimming. Okay. Use that popsicle stick sander and work that in. See how that fits a little better in there? If you can see, it's kind of hard with the light. Let me, I don't know if I can maybe change the angle on this here. You can see it better. Oh. So, otherwise there's a gap there. And so now that gap is filled. So, there we go. It'll fit better. All right. So now, just a little bit of sanding still. Okay. There we go. Once I glue that in there, there's no more work in it. There's no sanding it. There's no getting in there to do that. So this, whatever I do now has to be, I have to be happy with it. Otherwise, that's it. And I think I'm almost there. I just want to make sure that the seam line is a little bit less noticeable. But it will be covered with a plate, so I'm not really going to, there's something else going to glue on top of it, right? So it shouldn't be too big of a deal. In fact, probably what I should do is glue a plate on it, plastic plate size piece, but then, well, I got to get this thing in paint, so I'm not worried about it right now. The plate I'm using is photo etch, so it'll be a little bit different. Let's do a nice little trim job here. If there's any comments, anything new? Oh, another one. Let's see. Yeah. There we go. I think that is good enough. Just going to use a little bit of sandpaper, a little bit of this stuff here, just to get that a smooth over. It's so hard working with a piece this size. Nothing to hold on to. Just kind of like, yeah, good enough. Yeah, that's what ends up happening. Okay, good enough. That's it. It's gonna have to do. So I'll get the brush here. A little bit of that on the back side here. There we go. That's now part of the model. There's no separating that. That's never coming out. That's fine. It's fine with me. Yeah, hey, nail polish. I gotta clean that off. That's from painting the interior. Yeah, matches the interior. It's a fade from charcoal gray to blue. Just clean it up. Smooths out the nail anyway when you do this. It's all nice and clean. Look, I got a nail file right here. No big deal. And then when I wash my hands, this rest of it will come off. There you go. Done. So I think we're starting to be at the point where we're ready to do this. Yeah. do a little bit of taking out some of the seam lines here. I'd go and wet sand this, but I don't want to have to dry out all these seams. Just gonna let that be. Okay, well, I'll just use a little bit of a okay, I think we're good. I don't think I'm going to worry about this anymore. Okay. I'm just going to start getting color on this. So, I have to tape off the dash, do that color as well. So let's just throw a little bit of this on there. Test fit these. Let's see, bumpers. Oh, so much stuff on here yet. So much flash. So much of this stuff. Okay. So it fits. I'll just have to do the sanding and that's good. And the rear bumpers will fit as well. Okay, that's good. All right. Yeah, I think I'm ready to do the primer. Better get some primer. I'm using this Duplicolor. Turn it the right way so you can read it. Duplicolor paint here. Primer. Just gonna give it a light spray. We're back. Okay, so that's all I'm going to do for primer. Just a little bit of, just the lightest coat. And I'll just see if there's any sort of imperfections I have to deal with quickly in the body. And that'll dry pretty quick. So it allows me to do that. I'm going to have to build a something just to hold the hood open partly for paint. And so that's where I'm at with that. So it's getting to be, what am I, 11:30 now. I'm gonna start shooting some paint here, so I won't be in front of the camera very much. So we'll end this live Good night to everybody. Thank you for everybody who showed up to see it. And tomorrow, maybe we'll do another live, finishing this thing up. So, yeah. So thanks for watching. Enjoy and have a good night. And we'll see you later. So I'm just going to turn this way and figure out how to shut this off for the first time. Okay. How do I do this here? X. Okay.